Hey, everybody, this is Blake Bauer, and this is your superior self.
Perfect, man. What's up? How are you, Blake? Thank you for joining the show. I'm excited. I was looking at your one sheet, and my friend, you have quite the story.
Thank you, brother. I'm well, and I'm looking forward to our chat.
Mm. So, why don't you give everyone like a quick background? I know it's kind of hard because you have an amazing story, but go ahead and lay it on us.
Well, Trey, it's obviously a loaded story, but the work that I do in the world now came from a lot of deep psychological and emotional suffering as a young man. And to cope with my mental and emotional pain as a teenager, I got heavily into drugs and alcohol and became quite out of control. And by the time I was 18, I was arrested a number of times for drug possession. And then at the age of 17, I got excuse me, a very bad DUI on pharmaceutical pills at the time, a lot of cannabis or marijuana, and a lot of alcohol. And a lot of people do in their teenage years and their 20s, I was partying a lot and I just had an extreme personality and an addictive personality, really because I was running from a lot of mental and emotional pain from my upbringing and my family life that I never learned how to talk about or deal with. And so in high school, I played sports and I was a football player and I was captain of the varsity football team with my two best friends. And we were all going to go play college football. And I got this horrible DUI, got kicked off the football team, lost those opportunities to go to college and play. And at that time in my life, that was my ego and my identity. And I completely sabotaged everything that I cared about and everything that I identified with. So I went from being and feeling very invincible and very arrogant to being very insecure and tortured psychologically and lost and confused. And so it was a hard place to be at 18 when you're feeling the pressure of trying to figure out what to do with your life. And, do I go to school? Do I work? Do I go in the military? There's all these huge life choices that we're presented with around that age. And for me, I didn't feel any lightheartedness around it. It was very serious for me. And I was struggling. And so from 18, because I was waking up every day very tortured mentally and emotionally and just totally lost, I had no idea who I was or what I wanted to do with my life, which made the pain even worse and made my insecurity and my anxiety even worse. I moved forward just wanting to answer two questions. And those two questions were, how do I heal myself? How do I free myself from this suffering? And what's the purpose of my life? And for me, it was very literal and existential. Why did I come to the earth? Why am I on the planet? What am I doing here? And so that journey, those two questions led me to five different universities. I studied with spiritual masters from all around the world, read, hundreds, if not a few thousand books on, meditation, self-help, God, religion, nutrition, everything that has to do with health, wellness, and spirituality. And over time, I found answers. Over the years, I felt better. I felt more clear. I found peace. I learned to train my mind in meditation. I learned about how to eat right and how to exercise right and in a healthy way. And then the deeper I went down the rabbit hole, the more of an understanding I developed into the root causes of physical illness and mental and emotional suffering. And I got to a point where I had some clarity, some epiphanies where I could see basically that most forms of disease and suffering develop in the body as a result of us never learning how to love and value ourselves as children. And the self-destructive, unhealthy relationship that we develop to ourselves at a young age in our thoughts and in our emotional life really lead to all our problems. And I could outline from my studies, I could outline how that actually happens biologically. So, logically on a cellular level in the body, then emotionally and mentally on a more, metaphorical level, how disease develops in the mind and the heart, and then causes all of our problems in life. And so I was 24 years old, and I was very naive and innocent. And I thought, I just want to help as many people as I can. And that the next thought was, how do I do that? And the next thought was, I'll write a book. And so I had this very naive idea to write a book and had no idea about publishing or the publishing business and what publishers want or look for. And so I was rejected by over 100 agents and publishers. Nobody took me seriously. I was, 24, 25, 26. What does this kid know about life and these major life lessons and wisdom? And so nobody took me seriously, which was frustrating and heartbreaking. Eventually I self-published my book. It became a #1 bestseller as a self-published book. I then sold it to a traditional publisher, and now it's an international bestseller in 10 languages. And I've been lucky. I've helped over 100,000 people now in my life, and I get to just be real. Like I can tell you, appreciate, just no bullshit. And let's cut through and get to the root of this so that you can have a better life, because what else matters?
Sure.
So
I think you're lucky, man, because like so when did you ask those questions? Like, was it 24 or was it 18? Like you had these two ideas of why I'm here and what am I here to do? Like, was it at 18? Man,
18.
dude, like that's so lucky of you. Like to have that, like that spark, that kind of awakening, right? Like that idea planted in your mind. Like, so who did the idea, the question, like pop in your, like, did it just pop up one day, or was it like influenced by something?
No, it was just pain. It was just the
Just the
pain
pain.
of, yeah, I felt, I stopped drinking. I stopped getting high the second half of my senior year of high school. But all my friends, were still doing their thing, partying, getting ready to go to college. Whereas I was waking up every day, tortured, contemplating not being alive, very confused,
Mm.
ashamed that I felt all these things. Then I had a girlfriend, and because I felt so horrible about myself, I pushed her away. I hurt her. So I basically just sabotaged everything that I loved and cared about and had no idea how to talk about it. So I was going through so much in myself and just kept it in. And so those two questions began driving my daily life at 18, because I was like a sick animal. I was desperate. It wasn't just like, oh, I'm not kind of not okay. I was waking up every day totally not okay.
Just in
So
suffering, total suffering. And then you had these questions, and that led to 5 universities, and different studies. Like, so when you're 20, well, I guess you're coming out, I guess in college, you're like 21 ish. Like, what philosophy, like, really roped you in? Like, what was it that, obviously you're studying a lot, but like, what did you identify the most with?
Well, so I got very into yoga, and I'm
Mm,
sure you can relate. As a football player, I was very much into my body and my muscles, and I had built up this huge armor, around my heart and around my vulnerability as a guy. This was like my psychological ego was manifested in my physical body. This huge buffer between me and the world. And I actually herniated 2 discs in my back at the same time around this time, and it was absolutely horrible. But it led me to yoga and acupuncture and different approaches to my body. So yoga became very powerful for me. But what really changed my life was meditation. So when I was 18, I'm waking up tortured psychologically. And one day I was living in Colorado at the time, and I walked by a Buddhist meditation center, and I walked in and I took a meditation class. And at 18, I learned to sit down, focus on my breathing, feel my body. And when my mind began to wander, or all the voices in my head were so loud, I learned to come back to my breathing and my body. And I became addicted to practicing meditation every morning, because it was the
mhm.
only thing that gave me any relief. And so I'm not a Buddhist, but the teachings of the Buddha, and then I got into Taoism, were very, very powerful for me at 18, 19 years old.
What are you now? Like, what
Just a
would you?
human being.
Well,
Yeah.
that's what I was. I shouldn't say that. I agree with you 100%, man.
Yeah.
Just trying to find, just that where I'm at now. Like, I'm totally 100% with you. Like, just a human being. I'm in that beingness, right? Like, just trying to be, and like recognizing the ego when it comes in, like falling asleep to the ego. And I'm just saying this because I've been thinking about this all day. I go for a run in the morning, which is my meditation. I allow my ego. I try, like, I'm like trying to find different methods of running where I can get into that altered consciousness of like alpha states, and allow my mind to free flow, and be creative, and experience different levels of consciousness. And like today, I was just listening to the waves of the beach, and like that's where I feel most centered. But I can't do that while I run, because in running, I use running as a therapy to like shed all that shit off my soul, right? Like to just power through. Like I run 5 to 6 miles a day, or every other day, depending on if my wife's working or not. And I use that as a therapy session to just get all that filth off me, to purify me for the day. And I was trying to listen to the beach today. I was like, man, this is not working. I don't know what's going on. Like some days I feel good. Like I try to be in the moment, like try to experience God where I'm at, like looking at the leaves, looking at everything, and just, but then the ego comes in and it's like starts thinking about the past and the future. And it's like, you got to do this. You got to be back by this time because you got to be at work at this time. And it's not being centered in the moment. And where I find, I should say, where I find God, where I find myself, where I find that beingness is in the moment, right? Like being right here with you and being able to be connected, like the eternal whatever is right here. Like we talk about, the past and the future, like we have no ability to change any of that, but right now in this moment, we can affect it 100%. And the ego messes me all the time, dude. I don't know how you get over it, but like falling asleep to that, like meditation, like you were talking about the voices, like it's all the time, like being 18 and being able to meditate and experience Buddhism and read that and understand it a little bit. Like I'm 37. I don't know how old you are, but I'm probably like 2 years into my journey, into my humanness, and it's taking me down different rabbit holes. And I totally agree with you about diseases and our bodies and how our fears generate a lot of that. Like I think this pandemic, it might sound a little crazy to some, but I think the world and our thought processes has brought this upon us. I think a collective thought process has generated what is going on externally right now in our world. I think, a lot of the negativity that's been going on, a lot of people are always talking about, this is just my theory, take it for what it is. But like, I'm not happy with my job. I don't, everyone was on go, 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 go. And it was like the collective thought process generated this pandemic was like, all right, well, guess what, man? You don't like going to work? Well, guess what? You're not going to fucking work and you're not going to school either. Cause here we go. Boom. And now we're kind of like seeing a huge shift in our culture. We're seeing a huge shift in a lot of different things, like, I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree. I think we are definitely in the middle of a major wake up call. So I think you're spot on. And um,
I didn't mean to like throw you off or anything like that, man. Like I just went
no,
deep in like 6 seconds. Like I just been, I don't know, dude. Like I have a long commute and like I'm knee deep in Audible. Like Paul Selleck just came out with a book. I don't know if you know who he is or not. He just came out with a
I
book.
do know Paul
Yeah.
personally. I've met Paul a few times. Yeah.
Yeah, man. We hung out a couple times, and Paul's a great dude. And his book Alchemy just came out, and it is bonkers. Like it is just amazing, and I can identify with it so much. And so I've been not listening to it, but reading it nonstop and reading a couple of interesting texts. I need to read your book. Get a hold of that bad boy. But Robert Monroe, I've been reading that quite a bit, and yeah, I think we're on the same wavelength, man.
Definitely. Yeah, no, I just appreciate where you're coming from. And like I said, I absolutely agree. I think The world was moving too fast and we needed to slow down. And so we all just hit a wall. And now people are facing thoughts and emotions that they've been denying or numbing out or running from for a long time. And this is an opportunity to wake up and to take responsibility and do something about them. Unfortunately, not everybody has the tools, and a lot of people are struggling. And then going back to, the topic of the ego, I believe that we build an ego in the same way a caterpillar creates a cocoon to become a butterfly. So I believe that my view is that when we're children, we create this aspect of our psyche to protect us and to give us some sense of control. When you're a kid and you're with mom and dad, you feel powerless, you feel vulnerable. So I believe psychologically we create this sense of self where at least we have control over something, like what we wear, how we do our hair, what we put on our walls. And so this is our way of starting to identify and carve out how I feel about myself in the world. And so I found in my own healing journey, and I think it's the most useful mindset in our healing journey, to look at our ego as a aspect of our psyche or ourselves that we developed to protect us. So it's not bad. I think a lot of people get in trouble because they call the ego bad or evil or wrong. But if you think in terms of, does the universe create anything by accident? And if you believe in God, does God create anything by accident? And so if you frame it in this sense, I've always been attracted to the idea of developing unconditional acceptance and unconditional love for myself, which means I would have to accept all parts of me, even my ego. So how can you accept and love yourself 100% if you don't accept and love your ego and understand the purpose that it has served for you?
Hmm.
And so my understanding is, my view is that we create the ego as an act of self-love when we're children, in the same way a caterpillar creates the cocoon to become a butterfly. And so we have that to get through school and to get through our friendships and social life. And as we navigate being in this world, in this time, in this place, and then as we heal, the pain and the heartbreak from childhood and from life and from not knowing how to love ourselves and not know how to be true to ourselves and not know how to take good care of ourselves, then I have found that the walls of the ego start to come down, because you're not living in fear anymore. You're not afraid of having your heart open, because you're in this loving, awakened state where fear is not ruling your life. Awareness is ruling your life. And so I think the ego and fear co-arise together. And so as you actually, my view is that most of our fears, if you take any fear that anybody has, that fear will funnel down to a fear of pain. So if you think like the fear of someone losing us, or the fear of rejection, or the fear of even physical death, if you really dissect it, all our fears come down to this belief that it's going to be painful. We're afraid, literally just afraid of pain, afraid of suffering. So I think what we're really afraid of is all the pain in our heart and in our body that we have accumulated over the years that we don't know what to do with. And so once we start to heal that, and we're not afraid of the truth, basically, we're not afraid of the truth inside of us, both the pain and the love, both the pain and the energy, both the pain and the magic, then the walls of the ego start to fall away, and we realize that we don't have to be in the world from a place of ego. We can be in the world from a place of love and authenticity. And then the more you do that, when the ego pops up in an unhealthy way, in terms of really it's like defensiveness or the need to be right, you think, do I want to be defensive and right with the people I care about at the expense of our relationship? And then that's how you start to understand, you know what? I don't want to be right. I want to be happy. I don't want to be right. I want to be understood. And then you start to have that level of awareness. And then the ego really just starts to fall away. I think, again, we all have a sense of self to navigate being in the physical world in this time, in this place, and that's never going to go away. It's just, is it a healthy sense of self, a healthy ego, or it is a very toxic ego that
Mm.
destroys you and everything around you. And yeah.
I love that, man. That was deep. I love it. I'm right there with you, dude. The couple things that you said that I really resonate with is like the hardening of the heart. Like I'm just trying to like shed that off. I'm trying to soften the heart more. Like I went through some, relationship things growing up, family issues or, life, and I developed this crust over my heart, and I ran from things because I didn't want to feel pain. I didn't exactly what you were talking about. I ran away from a lot of things and I didn't filter those emotions. So like a lot of the trauma that I've had is, built up over the years because I've refused to feel that and be that, and I've always questioned like, why is this happening to me? Why is this happening? Like, I try to live my life in a positive way, and I try to be influential in a positive way. I don't, and like, and then I had this awakening where it's, if you have this philosophy that God is all, God is all, or he's nothing, either God's everything, even the pain. And it's a test. It's a test. And to feel and to filter the pain, to not feel it anymore is to feel it, to filter it through the heart. So instead of having a hard casing over the heart, you got to filter it through it. You got to feel it and be in it and know that this is what it is to be a human. This is why we keep coming back, why we keep reincarnating, why we keep coming back to this plane is because of this feeling right here, whether it's good, bad, or ugly. And you got to continuously filter through to make sure you don't have that crust, because I'd lost a lot of relationships to that, like being they say cold hearted, I say hard hearted, because it's like you don't open yourself up for the ability to live your life in love. And in Paul Selleck's book, he's like, man, I have this page highlighted and I carry it around with me all the time. It's like, look, listen, get the book Alchemy, and I'll promote your book too. But I'm sorry, I just read his book, so it's like sticking with me. It's like the resurrection of Christ, right? Like he says, and the guides are talking about the pulling away from the stone and Jesus coming back out, and he was like, he made the relation to your heart, or he made he made my third eye relate to the heart. Pull back that casing, that stone, and let Christ come through the heart, and to love and be authentic, and to show that God is everything. God is everywhere. God is everything, the good, the bad, and the ugly. You can't deny that. Even parts of yourself, which good on you for learning to love yourself fully, because I've struggled with that. Even the dark side of me, the shadows, what you damns you back. And what I've been trying to do, I say try, what I've been learning to do is love myself, all aspects, good and the bad and the ugly, man. And how did you get that casing off? Like, was it through meditation, or was it being vulnerable? Like, how did you get that casing off your heart?
I was desperate to heal, and so I tried everything I could. So it wouldn't just be one thing. It was yoga, it was meditation, it was eating right, it was journaling, it was learning how to talk about my feelings, it was studying, the mind, emotional life. Um, it was everything, trial and error. And I think, a theme that is, and being present, that's really the most important thing, is that once you start to drop into this, if you're present to everything you think and feel, then you're empowered to not do what you used to do, right? Just look it over, numb it out, pretend it's not there. But if you're present to it, then you can start to feel it. You can start to heal it. You can share it. You can integrate it. You can dissolve it, but only if you're present to it. If you're running from it, then you lose your power basically to it. You give away everything you're looking for. You give away your power.
Sure.
And I think, a theme that I heard you expressing, which has been present for me, and I know is present for a lot of people, is as men, we never really learn how to talk about our feelings in a healthy way. And we all grow up with this idea that to be a man and to be an attractive man and a strong man, that you're stoic and you don't get emotional. And then it's ironic because we live in this age where the new age is, popular, and a lot of women do a lot of personal development work, and they'll say men aren't doing it enough, and they'll say they want a man who's emotionally intelligent, aware, and sensitive, and talks about their feelings. But then yet, if a guy sometimes gets too sensitive or too vulnerable, a woman doesn't know what to do with this. So there's a lot of confusion and a lot of mixed messages. And so a lot of guys really don't know what to do with their feelings, because our dad's generation,
Yeah,
they
you
did
don't
not.
talk about anything, bro. You just
Exactly.
suck
And
it
so
up, boy.
our generation is the first generation that's really getting into emotional intelligence in this way, and I think in a really big way. And so it's evolution, and we're breaking, the habits that have been passed down genetically through our bloodline and from men for generations. And so it's a new frontier, I believe. And
Yeah.
but this is what gives us the strength to, like you've shared with me, you have a family. It's what gives you the strength to hold that space, because your heart needs to hold that space not for the entire family, and at the same time show up for you. And that's, I think, a male's healthiest role, for example, in a family, is to hold that space for everybody. And to do that really well, you got to be in tune with your emotions, because the truth is you love, right? You love the people around you more than anything. It's just, can you express it in a healthy way? When you're stressed and overwhelmed, can you express it in a healthy way? And unfortunately, these are the tools that we didn't learn from our parents often, and we didn't learn at school. And if you had a religious upbringing, you didn't learn it in your religious upbringing. And if you had professional development, you probably didn't learn it in your professional development. And yet these are the most important things we need to learn, to have healthy relationships and a healthy life.
Yeah, no, I agree, man. You made some really good points in there. I think you can only love as much as you're capable of. I think, our parents, I don't know, like my parents, they had this idea what society is, and you had to do X, Y, and Z, and that was it. And their parents, same thing. And, you talk about this new awareness. I think that, you saw the agricultural revolution, you saw the industrial revolution. I think you're going to see a conscious revolution where people are going to start awakening to different ideas of what consciousness is and what it is really. I mean, me spiritually, I don't even like to call it spiritually. I think what you said, humanness or human being, I think that's probably a better way to sum it up, where, I'm learning the capabilities of the mind and the body, and, my energetic levels, my energetic field, and learning what I can do mentally as far as, change my mind state, and what I can do to communicate that to other people through the podcast, and being more creative. And I've been reading a lot about past life regressions. I don't know. Did I see that in your bio about past life regressions?
Yes.
So I've been learning about that, and really learning how hypnotherapy can heal a lot of wounds, not just you, but like, obviously, your past lives, like your soul wounds, I guess you would call it. But talk about that, like past life regressions. Are you certified to do that? Do you do them, or do you just go receive them?
I am certified. So I studied with Dolores Cannon and Brian Weiss, if you're familiar with those
Oh
names.
shit.
Yes, shit. I was lucky to meet Dolores before she passed away. Um,
Brian
and
Weiss is a pretty big to do. He's a pretty big guy in the world of past life regret. You actually trained with him?
I did, and ironically, I read one of his books and had a crazy experience with someone who seemed to be like a soulmate. And I went to see him in Chicago, and it was a conference, and I was walking into the men's room to, take a piss.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a vision of him walking into the bathroom too. And I didn't know if it was just wishful thinking. So I'm standing there at the urinal, and Brian walks in and I look, and he unzips his pants next to me, and I look at him and I smile. He looks at me and smiles. I said, Brian, I got to tell you, I saw this happening before you walked in. And he just laughed. And so we had a conversation. This was in the middle of one of his seminars. We had a conversation while going to the restroom. And I, got to share why I had come, to see him. And so yes, I'm very familiar with him and very familiar with his work. So where I've come to in my understanding of the concepts of past lives is I don't really feel the need to talk about them very much because everything that is relevant is present in your life right now. So every habit, every wound is here right now in your thought habits and in your emotional habits and in your physical habits. And then all the lessons that your soul is here to learn in this lifetime and didn't learn in past lifetimes is present right now in the situations that you're experiencing right now. And so I think it's really cool and it's really interesting to think a lot about past lives, and because really we just imagine a lot of different possibilities, and sometimes we have an experience where we feel 99.9% or 100% like we had that experience in a past life. But even so, the moral of the story and the most important thing always boils down to, are you getting the lesson now? Are you mastering this life lesson, this soul lesson now? And I see every lesson as within the context of, we basically have come here to learn about love and to enjoy being on the earth. And in order to enjoy being on the earth and learn about love and literally bring love into the world as much as we can, we have to master learning how to love ourselves unconditionally. So to me, that's what every lesson boils down to. Like every relationship, every lesson is, am I loving, valuing, honoring myself 100% in the healthiest way? Because that then renders me capable of loving my children, my partner, the people in my life in a healthy way, keeping my physical health strong. So everything really boils down to that, so that I'm not creating regret, and so that I respect myself for how I live my life, for who I am and how I am. And so even if you do believe in past lives, it still all boils down to, are you mastering the most important lessons that we as human beings came here to learn, and as a soul that you incarnated to learn? Why did you come to the earth school? If you keep coming back, why are you coming here? Because you want to enjoy being here, because this can be the Garden of Eden. This can be a heaven on earth if you're not in hell psychologically and emotionally. And so I focus on helping people understand how to get out of hell in their mind, get out of hell and suffering emotionally and physically, so that their relationships with the people they love, their work, can be heaven-like, can be just joyful and full of health and the truth. And the thing that came to mind when you were talking about humanness was like, it's just all about being real, and that's the humanness, is being real. And we're often so, because we lie to ourselves unintentionally, so we lie to other people and we wear a mask and we play a role and we put on a facade, because I don't want you to know that I get hurt sometimes, or I get scared sometimes, or that I fucked everything up at one point in my life. When the truth is that everybody's made mistakes. Everybody has crazy thoughts in their head. Everybody wants love. Everybody wants happiness. Everybody wants freedom. Everybody wants to feel secure and not worry about money. Nobody wants to be alone. We all want to belong, and that's it.
Yeah.
And then we just play all these games to pretend otherwise, because we were conditioned to believe otherwise. And
Love it, man. I mean, you're so spot on, bro. Like, I mean, you're right on it. You're like right there and where my mind is at. I mean, the whole love thing, seeing other people and loving them for what they are. Don't see the person that you just irritate you. Just see them as a part of you, right? Like, we're all connected. We're all a part of this place. We're interconnected. And you said something about coming back and learning a lesson. I think I was talking to my wife about this the other day. Like, I feel like everything keeps happening. Like when I say things are a test, I think that things just keep reoccurring until you pass it, or or until you learn from it. Like things will just continuously happen, maybe not back to back, but you'll see it, throughout your life where the same situation pops up, and it's testing you. It's the universe testing you and seeing how you're going. All right, well, you fucking fucked up last time. Like you failed it miserably last time, you know, regardless of what your choice was. But let's see where you're at now. I've given you 10 to 15 years. You've read these books, you meditated, you're in a better place. You know what? I'm going to throw you a curveball, man. Here you go. Boom. See how you do. And then if you hit a foul ball and you didn't really necessarily pass the test, but you made contact, you're like, okay, all right, well, let's give him a little bit more time and a little bit more development and see where he's at a couple of years from now. And we'll do the same exact, it just keeps happening. I see it in my life all the time. And I think a lot of people, I say that, right? And I'm going to give you an example. And I see this a lot in friends and people that I know is, with like, I don't know why it's been recently, but like marriages, right? Like people seem, or even relationships. I've seen this quite a bit in friendships. People will throw that away just because of the person that, whatever, it's not working out for them personally. And they're not loving to the fullest. They're not loving that person to the fullest, whomever they may be. They're thinking, selfishly about, they're not meeting my X, Y, and Z, whereas you guys aren't on the same wavelength about communication. And then also it's like, it's also a test. It's like, are you committed enough to have an actual relationship with someone that you're going to be committed to in the long term? And if you continuously throw that away, you're not ever going to heal from whatever it is that is, pushing you away from that relationship. Like, let's say you have a problem with communication and you have a girlfriend and you break up with her, and the next one's going to say that you're going to have the same problems with that girlfriend, and you're going to have the same problems with the next one until you heal that, until you remedy the problem that you may be having, whether it's willingness to love someone else unconditionally, or willingness to, I don't know, not care about her mishaps or her imperfections. Like, things are just going to keep popping up and be a pattern, because it's like the universe saying, you need to get better, man. Like, this isn't you. This isn't truly who you are. And I see a lot of people throw away relationships because they aren't ready to deal with that. And then they think that the next one's going to be better, when in fact it might be better for a year or two. And then next thing you know, boom, something happens and triggers. And now you're back at square one, and you're like, I can't do this anymore. So I'll throw this away too. And then I'll get another one. And then it happens again.
Very common. I agree with you 100%.
And it's like, I don't know why, like, I'm seeing it more now. Maybe I'm just kind of, I don't know, like, I just feel like it's happening. Like, I can just see it. And I think, I just talking about relationships and the universe, I just wanted to get that out there. Like, people start realizing, hey, look, you might not be in the best relationship with your father or your mother or your wife or your girlfriend or your husband or boyfriend, but it's like, see them not from your standpoint, not from you, but like, see them from how God would look at them. Like, see them like as a kid, see them as like, them growing up and going through their trauma, through all the things that they've been through, and see them as that kid and be like, man, you know what? Cut them some slack. Like, they grew up in life, and they experienced all these different things, and they're just like you. And I try to live my life by this, like, in remembering that you can only love as much as you're capable of. So if you're not feeling loved enough, it's probably because something happened in their lives where they can't get past that. They can't get over that hump. They can't get over that barrier. Help them, just see them as God would see them. I'm just saying, like, I get up in the morning, my wife's, the other morning, she's like, has a cold or something. She's all laid out with, tongue hanging out, snoring, and it's like, but I love her. You know what I mean? Like, you love them through thick and thin. And even in the worst times when you guys are arguing, realize that that's, you guys are having an argument about, who knows, something probably stupid. that the egos have decided that this is important in the moment, and it's not. Just take a step back, be emotionally intelligent, being like, her head is just, probably telling her some shit that's not right, but you know what, man, just let it go. Just see the thoughts come at you, let her, yell at you, scream at you, and just realize, you know what, she's probably right, but just love her, see her see her as that little girl, and be like, you know what, she grew up with some shit in her life too, and I'm just going to love her, and we're going to move forward.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I think that's beautiful. And I think in that context, if we can look at our relationships as though, like, what's the purpose of our relationships? Well, in my cosmology, the purpose of our relationships is to teach us about love and to teach us about what matters. And, and so I think we come together with people to learn about love, to learn about forgiveness, to learn about communication, to learn about honesty, to learn about trust, to learn about sharing. These are the lessons that are present within our relationships. And forgiveness, I think forgiveness is like a secret and a key to life. You brought up Jesus earlier, and, Jesus's parable about, you don't have to forgive 7 times. You have to forgive it 7 times, 77 times, because we have to become that capable of forgiveness, that capable of seeing that if someone's reacting, they're really coming from pain and suffering. And to have that kind of penetrating insight and that penetrating awareness is actually liberating, because then you don't take it personal, which is one of Don Miguel Ruiz's 4 agreements, is not to take anything personally, because people are just projecting everything onto you, the good stuff and the bad stuff. So it's like one of those spiritual phrases or cliches that praise and blame are but the same. 1 minute I'm going to praise you and the next I'm going to blame you. And you want to have a strong sense of self that's not dependent on whether someone's praising you or blaming you. You want to have a center that is coming from love, that is honest, real, vulnerable, and that respects itself because it is honest and kind. And that's really what it comes down to, is being real, but doing it in a kind way and doing it in a loving way.
I love
and,
that. I love that.
Yeah.
I try to be in the middle. I try to be in the middle right there, where I am not emotionless, or, I don't feel anything, but it's like, I try to be conscious to what's going on around me. I'll see other people's, egos or small self, like, just, I see it all the time. Like, people are just got to be right. They got to have their opinions. They got to, I see it a lot now, especially what's going on in mainstream. But I try to keep that even keel, like that, not too much, not too little kind of mindset. But then again, we're human, right? Like, we get lost, we go to sleep, the ego takes over sometimes. And it's just putting in the work and putting in the daily habits to get you back centered, right? Like you said, meditation. Are there any other things that you do that keeps you centered, like daily habits?
Yeah, absolutely. So I like to, for me in the morning, besides deep breathing, I love having a walk and having coffee. I like to sit and have coffee by myself.
Mm-hmm.
I love my coffee, and I love just the time. I love the time in the morning to just let my everything just drift wherever it needs to go without
Sure.
like too much pressure. So
Without
for me,
judgment, right? Like, you just allow
without
whatever comes
judgment.
up.
Yeah, exactly. And I try not to schedule too much in the morning so I can have a little bit of that space for myself. And so that's really helpful for me. Exercising every day is important to me, even if it's just a walk. I really love to take care of my body and feel strong and feel like my energy and my blood, my circulation is good. It keeps things moving, keeps my thoughts moving,
Mhm.
keeps my emotions moving. Um, and I got very into qigong for many years, which is like Tai Chi, but even older than Tai
Mhm.
Chi and the foundation for Chinese medicine. So qigong is a big part of my life. And that was a practice that was very powerful for me when I discovered it. And I share that when I teach retreats, which is what I do throughout the year when the world's not falling apart. I teach qigong in these retreats because it unlocks the subconscious very effectively and opens up stuck energy flow, stuck blood flow, things that are trapped in your body. And if you'd like to check it out, I actually have a DVD online to stream, and I can send you a free
Sure, man. Absolutely.
access code. Yeah, it's very
Bro.
powerful. It's what martial arts masters discover at the kind of at the end of the road, because it's about unlocking and harnessing your energy to the highest level, which then
Yeah.
makes you more effective at everything you do. And it's very gentle on the joints, good for your immune system, preventative medicine. Um, so to be honest, I created a life and a lifestyle that sets me up for peace. So it's an art. The more you do the stuff we're talking about, the more you actually create your day and your life and your schedule. And I actually make a living traveling the world teaching people this stuff. So it was that important to me that that's all I do is share it with
Hmm.
people or do it myself. So I'm kind of like a hermit monk when I'm not teaching, and I keep to myself a lot with my family and some friends, but I do have a lot of time alone because I enjoy that.
But it's the best
And
though. I love it.
yeah.
I could read books all day, bro. Like, I mean, three kids. I'm always trying to get rid of them, you know.
Karma is a bitch. And they're not
uh,
even teenagers yet.
no, man. Well, my 8-year-old, she acts like one. Jeez, she is the closest thing to what I got to a teenager. And today, apparently, the new what is it? What's that video game that everyone's into? The kids, Fortnite. I guess the new version came out, and he's been eating that up all day. I've been hearing about the new theme, and it's hilarious. Um, but yeah, man, I can vibe with you like all day. I think I'm always trying to raise my vibrations, right? That higher frequency and achieve, progress in that aspect. And psychology is a part of my life. I like learning more about what the brain is capable of, because I feel like for the longest time I played into the fact that I wasn't smart enough, or I wasn't fast enough, or whatever, biologically, just putting these limitations on myself, which were not even true. They were just, falsehoods that I was putting on myself. And like, once you realize that the brain, like, people think that, they grew up and they, oh, my parents they couldn't do math, or they were dumb, or whatever. They only achieved a certain amount of success, which, I guess that's what I'm limited to. It's like, that's totally false, because like the brain is just like a muscle. Like, you go out there and you work it out, and you keep working it out and keep working it out, and you start, finding different things, different rabbit holes to go down, and experiences to read about. Like, that's what happened to me. Was it took a spark in me to realize, I was reading this book about resistance and learned about that, and how it like, there's a resistance out there that's trying to win the day, and in order to beat it, you have to be proactive. And it just led me down this road of self-development, and that led me down this road of trying to find my humanness. And now where I'm at right now is, now I'm trying to be in the moment, that being, that like that connection with someone, and not being like a false connection. It's like just being able to have a conversation with you, Blake, and like being authentic and being open and having my heart open, and whatever happens, which has been magnificent, which has been, like you said, like heaven on earth, because I'm not suffering, but the suffering, still comes, but it's like, it's not as much, right? Like, you're always going to have suffering, which is good, because it keeps you trying to get better, or trying to pass that next test. And, like you said, heaven on earth, like the more you keep, the more that you find what is true to you, the more you experience that heaven.
100%.
But I can talk to you all night. How can people find your book, and how can people connect with you?
Amazon. The book is on Amazon, so it's You Were Not Born to Suffer. Very easy to find. I have a website, which is unconditional-selflove.com. And then I'm on social media. So however, if anybody wants to reach out or, look at my work, it's all there, all very accessible.
You on Instagram?
I'm on Instagram. I was kind of a dinosaur to Instagram. I was on Facebook and was like, oh, Instagram,
You
that's not
still
my
got
thing.
MySpace. We're sitting there hanging out on
No,
MySpace.
I don't have. I never had MySpace. I actually was even late to Facebook. I was like,
Uh,
but in our world today,
sure.
it's just it really is amazing. It can be really unhealthy, but it can be amazing in terms of connecting with people all over the world and helping people all over the world. I mean, it really is amazing.
You're
So
getting your products out to the market. I mean, even though the ego's looking for that dopamine hit, right? The likes, share. Um, what do you want your legacy to be, Blake? Like when it's all said and done, like what do you want it to be? What do you want people to be talking about?
that's a beautiful question. I love that question. I I I want to help as many people as I can in this life just to understand how to love themselves and how to love and how to free themselves from suffering. And the reason for that is because it was the most important thing to me, and it is the most important thing to me. And I found on my journey, because as you could tell from what I shared with you, I read all these books, I went to all these teachers and these masters, and I went to all these schools. And so I was seeking the truth, and I was seeking these answers outside of myself, and I was seeking someone who embodied what I intuitively or instinctually felt was the highest manifestation, or a true manifestation of this instinct that I had. And the truth is that I had to become what I was looking for. And I think that that's a big lesson for us, is that we have to become what we're looking for, instead of like a bird that continually flies into a window and hits the window and hurts itself because it doesn't see the window. I think we all keep doing that. We keep looking outside of ourselves for the answers, for love, for happiness, for approval. And I just am too familiar with the suffering that comes from that habit. And I would like to help as many people as possible break that habit. And the other thing is that I studied all the science and I studied all the religions, and I got lucky to develop an understanding that can sift through all the conflicting theories, and that offers a very human path to love and to freedom that's not religious, and it's all logical, but it's not like hard or cold like we were using those terms. It's logical and it's full of love at the same time. And it's both practical and empowering for everybody. And I feel an obligation I feel an obligation. I feel I got lucky. I got really blessed. I got really lucky in this life. And I feel like because Trey, in my hardest moments when I was suffering the most, and also then trying to live a life where I didn't sell my soul and I walked this path for real, 100%. In some of my hardest moments, or moments where I still had doubt, I would look up at the universe and I would talk to the universe and talk to God, and I would say, please help me. You help me and I will keep helping people. And the truth is that the universe and God has never let me down, has always showed up, has always given me exactly what I needed when I was ready for the next step. And so I feel blessed, and I feel like I've got this agreement with the universe that I will keep just sharing what I've been so lucky to learn with as many people as I can until I leave this body.
Hmm. I'm like lost in everything you just said. I don't even know what I was going to say. That's awesome,
Well, you
Blake.
asked a really good question. I really love that question.
Man, dude, that was a great answer. Blake, thank you so much for joining the show. I know what I wanted to say. Shakespeare said, know thyself. The answers are always within. It's not out. We read all these books to try to find our way, but at the end of the day, know thyself, go inward.
Absolutely.
Blake, thank you so much, brother.
Trey, thanks for having me. It was wonderful.